All right, we are live. This is the Canadian Chess League, round number 1. I'm playing Kavin Sharma, and playing the Sicilian, I could go d6 here or e6. Um, Many options here. I think I'm going to play an e6 setup against him. Let's take a look at the stream as well. I want to make sure everything is going smoothly. If you're just tuning in, we host an online chess league every single Thursday for players in Canada. It's an opportunity to challenge yourself, to play, to have fun, and win some nice games. Okay, so I'm challenging white center, giving him a decision here. He takes. Now I could take with the queen. I can also take with a pawn. I think, what should I do? Should I take with the queen? Both are reasonable, but I think I want to take with the queen. Even though this light squared bishop really could open up, I want to see what he plays against queen takes d5 here. Expecting d4. I don't necessarily want to take right away. I think I'm going to develop. Knight f6, c4. I have a check. Bishop e2. Then I could take. Let's go knight f6. c4, I can also go queen d8. And let's check in on some of the other games as well. Ivan playing with the black pieces here. Good structure, a little bit weak on the light squares, but seems to be doing all right.
The game over.
All right, guys, just please message me in the chat. That way everyone can stay focused. So if your game is over, rematch, play the next game. And this game has finished with a checkmate. Okay, it's back to my game. So he wants to take. I can play knight d7 here. The bishop I could target. Maybe now is his chance to go c4. So I think now is the time I could take. I could go knight d7 as well. I am tempted to play this way, but I think I will take in this case. So let's see. He takes with the queen. And this does allow me to develop my knight with a tempo, offer him a queen trade. I don't think it's so bad here. Could keep the queen on the board, but I think we'll keep it simple with knight c6. And he decides to trade queens. Okay, I'm going to take with the knight here. Challenge his dark sword bishop. See if I can win his dark sword bishop and get some advantage. Will he allow it? So he does. He does allow me to take on e3. Is there any trap? I don't think so. I think I could just take that and get a advantage. I have the two bishops and a target. Bishop c5, knight e4, I take, knight d6. I have king e7. I'm up a pawn. The bishop is going to sit nice on b6 where it's more stable. Knight c4, if I can stop that. The pawn is always a target. Is he going to go e4 though if I go bishop c5? I don't think it's going to make that much. I might have some potential checks in winning the pawn. So like winning the pawn with a check. So bishop c5 seems very natural to me in this case. Castles. I have a 4 versus 3 pawn majority on the king side, which I will try to initiate. Yeah, he goes e4 as expected. So I could castle, which seems like a very natural response. I could finish my development as well, bishop d7 or b6, bishop e7. There is a point to going b6. Maybe he wants to go b4. But I like the fact that I have the dark squared bishop here. Okay. e5. Don't want to play just yet. Although it makes a lot of sense here. e5, knight c4 though. Let's castle. And my opponent castles as well. So the pawn's a bit of a weakness, but I don't see an immediate way to target it. Not 100% sure where I should develop this bishop. If I go b6, he goes b4. I have bishop e7. I could just go bishop e3 there. I think bishop here, pawn here and bishop here makes a lot of sense. Or maybe I could also expand with a6, b5. I can go e5 as well, and if knight c4, f6, and bishop to e6. f5, I don't think I'll consider here. He wants to finish his development. I think maybe I can just put more pressure on the pawn and this diagonal. So I think I'll go b6. If knight here, I'll give a check and follow it up with bishop b7. If rook to d7 comes in, then maybe rook to b8, maybe e5, and I can create some weakness on this side of the board. Bishop to e3 also makes a lot of sense to start with, pinning the knight and asking him a question, but he may just develop, and yeah. Rook d8 is also a very natural move. Rook d8, knight b3, I can give a check. He has to go king c2 or block with the knight. and then e5 and bishop e6. I don't know if it's that big of a deal to allow him to go bishop c4 here. Yeah, maybe e5. e5, knight c4, I have f6, e5, bishop c4. I'm giving away this square unnecessarily. Maybe another way is bishop d7 and rook d8 and rook c8. And just play very normal chess. And maybe the bishop's going to be flexible here. So I think bishop d7 I'll play. If knight b3, I have this move followed by rook to d8. So bishop d7 I shall play. Alright, so now we're going to play rook to d8. Bishop e5, of course, I will go a6 and try to go after this. So a6 it is. He could go like rook e1 to start with. Okay, he doesn't. Let's target this pawn. It's important as well that I hit this pawn with a check, so I can win this pawn and not have to worry about rook to e1. Okay, so now it is a little bit of a threat. But I don't think so. I can always take, and I think in this case I can take. If he takes with the rook, I trade. If he takes with the knight, I take the pawn. So taking makes a lot of sense. And if he takes here, I can take here as well and be up a pawn. So I don't think it's absolutely necessary here. Maybe I can make some room for my king first. And if rook e1, then bishop takes. But I am up a pawn, and I can create another weakness. So bishop takes. If knight takes, I win a pawn. If pawn takes, I have a good bishop against this knight. And I could create another weakness as well. Question is, do I really need to? I think I'm gonna go for it. So bishop takes. If knight takes, I win a pawn. He goes here, I can come back, and I'm up 2 pawns. Looks very reasonable. So he trades like this, and I can take, and get my rook in. But I can also take here first. And I'm up a pawn. He has to take with the pawn here as well. Otherwise, if he takes with the knight, I win in a second pawn. Yeah, so now his knight's really tied to this defense. I'm going to play rook d8, put some pressure on the pawn. Rook d1, I can take, and go e5 here. He can play d5. I can go e5 right away. I could ruin his pawn structure and go rook d5 and e5. The pawns on the queen side are a bit weak, so I can go rook d5 first. If knight e2 I take. If rook d5, knight h4, I have g5. If knight e1, his knight's pretty bad. And if rook d5, knight e5, I can take. He has some play here, but I can go h6, go check. Maybe g6 is better so that the pawn on f7 is covered. Can also bring the bishop back to g6. I can also eliminate the knight as well, but I can put pressure on this diagonal. Rook d5, rook here. G6. Do I go into this or keep it super safe? Maybe I do keep it super safe. Go rook d5, and if f4, rook f4, rook f1, and g5. But the pawns on the queen side are actually huge targets as well. Like take, rook d5, rook c1, g6, rook c7. I take, he takes. Yeah, my bishop is doing a good job guarding the pawns here. So, do I take or keep the pawn as a weakness? Let's go g6. I think this makes sense. And if knight e5, then I win a pawn. f6 also makes a lot of sense, stopping the knight. Just don't want to allow any rook infiltration. Okay, let's just do f6. Knight e2 I take. I'm also threatening e5 as well. Does weaken the e6 pawn a bit, and if he gets into my position, then or do I play forcing on here? Take. f6. Okay, f6 should be fine. I'll check after the game what's the absolute cleanest way to convert this pawn advantage. Let's check on the other game. So e1, the black pieces. It's going after the pawn on c4. Really complicated position here. We have the queen invading, though. That could be a huge problem for white. Might have to go bishop g2 immediately. This game, king is not in the center. Black is having some problems here. And this game finished with a checkmate. So that game is done. Okay, so he goes here. This does allow e5, which wins another pawn. Wait, is it my turn or his turn? Did he go king h? Oh, I pushed this king to the corner before with that bishop check. So e5 is my threat here, which forces the win of a pawn, taking advantage of the pin. All right. Let's check on stream a little, see how that's going. We host an online chess league every single Thursday. If knight h4, I can play e5. All right, let's take a look at this game. So, how did we get this position? We have an interesting setup, knight e4, hitting the pawn, winning the bishop pair. Add some expansion for black, opening up the a file. This looks pretty normal and good for black. He has the two bishops. Safe king, no problems. Okay, Mun's algorithms game. King still in the center, so serious problems if like a move like rook to e1 comes to mind. Just how are you going to finish your development here? Here could be a huge problem. Yeah, this game is done. So, and they also, I think they sent a rematch. Maybe I'll take a look at that later. And let's take a look at Iman's game. So pawn on c4 was under attack. You could play knight here and here, but I don't think he's going to go for it. Pawn on c7 is hanging. He trades. This does allow white to get activity on the c file. Bishop is a bit blocked in, but if the queen leaves this diagonal, you could easily see the bishop land on e6, where it could be quite menacing. All right, let's see what our opponent's going to play. I'm actually going to go to the washroom and grab a sweater as well. It's cold here in Canada. Be right back, guys. Okay. Of course, I'm gonna wear a Canada jacket, Canada sweatshirt, or Canadian Chess League. Catch. Yeah. Okay, my opponent still in the think tank. So what do I think he can do here? I don't know. If he activates the rook, I can take, and take, and he can't really move the rook yet. If a3, I have like rook d3 or rook d2 hitting the pawns. Rook d3. So like rook c1, for example. Okay, so here I could play e5, which wins a pawn. He's going to get his king active as well. E5. I don't know, king b2. I can take. And if king c2, he is blocking the pawn. And my king isn't as active yet. I always have e5, so maybe if king steps in, I can be a little bit closer with my king. I also put a lot of pressure on his position. He offers a take back. There's no take backs in this. It's like a CFC rated game, so unfortunately no take backs in this league. I could also take the open file, which seems very reasonable. The pawn is completely blocked, but yeah, that seems really reasonable as well. Taking the open file. The pawn isn't going anywhere, and if knight d2 I take, if knight h4. Not sure really what he's going to do after this. If his king gets in, I win second pawn and the knight's hanging. The bishop covers the b7 square. So rook c8. If rook to e1, then rook to e1. I could go bishop here, and then king b2 though. Not having the same effect. Do I go up 2 pawns or not is the question. e5, king b2. Let's try to see how far we can calculate here. e5, king b2. I take, king c2, king f7, king d3. My pawn will probably fall though. I won't be able to use it unless I trade rooks. So e5, king b2, takes, king c2, king f7, king d3, and king to e6. And I'm up a pawn, which I don't think is going to be enough to win. It probably is, but yeah, maybe I could just win that way. So e5, king b2, I take, king c2, king here, king d3, king here, and go king d6. But it's going to be a little bit tricky getting my pawns rolling. I think take, e5, takes, maybe king f7 first, and if rook here, I can take, and the bishop temporarily hits the controls the b7, so if check, I can go up, he takes back, rook takes, he takes, I go here, he goes here, I take, he takes, and I have 2 pawns marching, but he can also claim he's getting some play. I could also start expanding with g5 and get my pawns going faster than him. King f7 looks fine. Maybe king f7, rook here. And I lose the e5 move. But I could take, check. King here, takes. Rook d3, f4, I go here, he goes here, I take, he takes. One push. Probably is winning anyways. Alright, we gotta make a move here. And I think e5 is probably the cleanest way to do it. So e5, take, take, take. Maybe not. Maybe not. Let's yeah, really tempted to do this, but I don't think it's necessary. Let's go king f7. I'm keeping this thread alive, and I want the same position with my king defending my d4 pawn after I get a trade of rooks. I like the bishop on the board because it keeps guard of this b7 pawn. Okay, so e5, king c3, I take, 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 rook takes, I take, he takes, king e6. What about rook c2 here? Rook c2, I don't even win another pawn, though, at the moment. You can't really go king c3, though, because then I give a check. I could start expanding, and I still have the same ideas in mind. So let's go g5. Let's expand in the position. He has like rook f1, but I can win this pawn. If king c3, I'll give a check and take over the second rank. And if knight here. Here I win another pawn. Yeah, he goes for this, but this allows a check, I thought, and an invasion into the second rank. The bishop on the board always protects the pawn, which is quite nice. And if king here, check here, I could play either bishop d5, which looks good, bishop c6 as well. Okay, that's blundering the g2 pawn, so let's invade. Let's take. His pawn's falling. Knight moves. Now I could pin him, but I think just taking the pawn is enough. All right, so he wants some activity. He wants to go rook c7. But my bishop covers this, so if I push, he gives a check. I just move out of the way. So let's march. And now his rook is kind of out of play, and his knight is trapped. If rook e7, I could go here, and if takes, I take check. So in this position, I think rook here, f5 wins. King g5 wins. h5 seems like the best way to go about this. What about rook to e2? Wait a second. Rook to e2. His knight goes here. This runs into a check. Okay. And if here, king moves. Let's just keep it simple and play h4. Knight d3, I think I'll take. Take and go h4, which looks very strong. Okay, he starts rolling down the board, but I think this is too slow. h4. And let's take a look at some other games. This game, what happened? We get the knight kind of sidelined here. Knight tries to get back in the game. Pieces coming in. White's doing quite a nice job dominating this position. Okay, so he's trying to make some progress here, but I think it's too slow. If here is winning. Does he want to sack his rook for the bishop? I don't think it matters too much here. Okay, let's see this game. They actually had a rematch. So we should take a look at the game, how it finished previously. Who won that first match? I see. I don't want to spend too much time analysis while my game is going on, so maybe I'll come back afterwards. So this hits my knight, so I will take. Push. Yeah, that should be game. Take with the rook or the queen. Game. 3 match. While we're waiting, we could take a look. So Black resign this one. So I'm having got his rook to e3. Let's see the follow-up game. Okay, they haven't paired yet. Take. Sack. Not sack. Do a little sacrifice here. You could just win the queen right away. And he sacked the rook to get the queen in. Nice play. Let's see how the other game progressed. The white pieces, e4, e5, h4. Gave this pawn up to get the f5 pawn. Okay, game is starting. And what should we play? D4, e4? Let's go e4. He goes e5. Let's go knight f3. Knight c6. Go bishop e5. He goes knight to e7. So, what does he want with this move? Go d5 right away? Just castle. d6. d6. I can play h3, but I think d4 makes sense. And bishop g4 is allowed. Maybe c3, and if here, then h3. Yeah, I like that. So now let's ask him a question. And I can play d4. If b5, bishop c2, he takes, he can win this pawn. I want to play d4 if I can. So d4, e5, bishop c2, he can take. Maybe bishop b3 instead. d4, b5, bishop b3. So that if takes, knight takes, I win. And if bishop takes, I take, hitting the f7 pawn. Let's see. So d4. If bishop takes, I take b5, bishop b3. And I get one tempo in. d4. If he takes right away, I take back. b5, bishop b3. Knight d4 I take. Knight d4 I take. He takes, c5. I have this square for the bishop. So d4, what else? b5, bishop comes back. He takes, I take. So I think d4 can be played here. All right, let's see how the other games are going. This game started, game finished, and this second game going on. King in the center. How did this happen? Fantasy variation of the Caro-Kann. He takes on e5, doesn't develop. Goes king d2. Yeah, b5, bishop b3 was my plan. Take, take. Gonna go bishop e3 next. Anyways, protecting the pawn. So he defends this way, but I don't like this decision because his king is wide open. So now we'll protect d4. Maybe a stronger move there, but I think I'm doing quite well in the opening. Got the king safe. Bringing out the pieces. He still has some problems with his development, so I expect him to trade bishop f7, but he doesn't. So if he wants to castle on the queen side, he might have some difficulty. Knight d2 seems like a strong idea, just developing, and if castles, I play a4. Does he want to go f5 or d5? I'm not sure. I also have knight c3 as well, but maybe I want the c file open. Okay, let's go knight d2. Looks like a normal development move here. I have the center. I'm in this pin, but I think I have everything under control. And the d4 pawn's quite nice, stopping any knight e5. f6 could be a big problem if I can play e5 at the right moment. He castles, which I think might be a big problem now for his king with a4. So a4, knight a5, I could take. He takes with the queen. Bishop e6. Okay, let's see how he responds to this. He retreats. This does allow d5 now, opening this up. It does block my bishop, but threatens to win material. Takes, I can take. This also gives me the potential to bring the knight to d4 and e6 as soon as I deal with this pin. And if he takes, maybe I could take here as well. Okay, so he defends like this, but now I think he's in some trouble with his king. If I take, he can't take with the pawn, but he can take with the knight. And if he takes with the knight, I can take here. So I think this looks good. Yeah, it's kind of what I thought he couldn't do because of rook takes on a6. If he takes this way, I'll take with the knight, so I can still go knight d4. And I don't know how he solves this problem. Okay, so he goes there. I can take with the rook. And I can also take with a bishop, too. What if I go queen a1? And he has knight c8. I think I'll just take with the rook. Okay. He goes queen here. And this does allow queen a1, which I thought was winning. Queen a1 threatens this. King moves. Check with the queen. He can block at least. Wait a second. If I go here, this also allows me to bring the other rook in the game. I can also hit the pawn as well. How exactly does he save that? That might be even stronger. Queen to e2. Oh, but he has bishop to e8 there. So let's just keep it simple. Let's calculate a bit. We have some time. Queen a1. What can he do? Rook d7. I have rook. What if I give a sack? What if I go here, takes, takes. Sorry, let's try to sack and see what happens. Rook check. If king goes up, I win the queen. Rook check. He takes. I go check. He has king b7 or king b8. If king b7, I have mate. If king b8, I have mate. So let's just double check this. He takes. Give it check. Queen a6 I take. King b8 I give check. King b7 I give check. Okay, last time. Check. Takes. Check. Yeah. Just mate. Rook a8. Probably had a different way to play it too. But this one looks nice. There's no takebacks. No takebacks here. Okay, so he goes for this, and I can go back, or I can win the queen. He resigns. Okay, good game. Good game. Good game. You can check out the game here. All right, so that's a good result for first week of the Canadian Chess League. Let's take a look at the other games. Actually, should we analyze this? Maybe we should jump in here. Let's see. Yeah, Queen A1, but this also wins. Takes. Check. He has to block. Takes. Oh, it's not checkmate. What am I thinking? Because the queen leaves. Okay, I win the queen and then checkmate. But that's quite interesting is that the queen vacates a c8 square if he wants to survive for one more move. Otherwise, this is mate. Okay, so now we can check with the edge in that first game. Let's see what was the best way to play. Okay, maybe I'll do my own analysis afterwards so we can jump into the other games. Or do you guys want to see analysis of the game? Okay, so you guys want to see the analysis in the Zoom chat here? All right. I'm going to share the analysis. Maybe Kevin will find some value in it. So I played c5, c3. I expected e5 taking as well. Let's turn on the book. So taking, queen takes, or pawn takes. I really don't want to take with a pawn because of the potential isolated pawn here, although it's perfectly playable. So queen takes, d4, knight f6, bishop e3, third best move here, and now I take. Knight c6 is also moved, but I thought c4 here would be a bit annoying, and queen just comes back to d8, f takes. Black is better, king is stuck. Take the bishop and take the pawn. Take, queen takes, and black is already equalized and also better because I get to hit the bishop with a tempo. So he should go queen a4 is best move here. Boris Spassky played this 1989. Queen takes, knight d2. Bishop d4 was played several times. Bishop g5 as well. But black is better nonetheless. Knight d2. And I take and develop with the tempo. Castle. So I could have gone king e7 here, which is immediately activating the king in the endgame and preparing to get the rook in. Castles was also okay. He castles. And here I went a little bit, according to the engine, a little bit wrong. Something else I was considering was b6, which I didn't like as much for some reason, like bishop e5. I forget why. Knight b3, I go bishop e7, e5, bishop b7, runs into rook d7. There's some rook move to d7, which I wanted to avoid, but I think my move order's off. I also considered a6, b5, which is okay, but after b4, I thought bishop b6, but then it doesn't make sense to go a6 to get this bishop out this way. Also, b5 might just create more weaknesses. After c4 takes, he gets the c4 square, and also the a6 pawn could be a target. So b6 is actually the top move now, according to the engine. Knight c4, trade off the rook. Bishop e7 is what I exactly didn't want, which was rook coming in. So that's why I played bishop d7, and I wanted to get my rook to d8. Knight b3, I gave a check and brought the rook in. Here, a6, I don't think he should trade this. I think that might be close to like a huge advantage for black. If he trades a bishop d3, and I was going to play a rook c8, play this position. He took, which gives black a very stable long-term advantage of the two bishops. And after this, I won a pawn. So maybe e5, saving the pawn was possible. Rook a to c8. a3 is the top move. h5. Maybe I'm like more conservative. But h5. Maybe h6 I was thinking. Okay, h5 makes a lot of sense. Rook e1. Take, check. King a1, and computer likes to take, and target the weakness. Okay. Now for rook b7, I take, he takes. This pawn is so fast. Just pawn push. Rook b4, g5, rook here. I guess bishop f4 is the move. Pawn is devastatingly fast. Rook g1, h3, king b1, h2, and win another pawn. Interesting how white took the time to win the pawn, come back, and come all the way back to its starting position. Okay, knight e4 I take, and then I saw some potential to win more material, which I went for. And if he takes with the knight, I'm going to take this pawn. If he takes with the pawn, I can double and still hit the g2 pawn. So it takes, rook d8, rook c8, better move, rook c1. Here was the question, what's the best plan? Rook c8 is the best plan according to the engine, going to rook c2. I played f6, which actually loses quite a bit of an advantage. I considered a lot here. I considered taking and rook d5, going e5, and I thought rook c1. The computer likes h5. I thought just g6, rook c7. I take, he takes. Sorry, he makes a move for his king. I go rook f4. He takes. I take. Rook attacks this pawn. And computer says, don't even go after the pawn. Just start marching. Takes f5 and get two pawns rolling down the board. He also has his pawns as well. And if I just push, what happens? Like, computer says get the king involved, but why not just push? Or the other pawn as well. Okay, pawn push. Say here. Rook e6. He gets behind the pawns. King f7. That's why. To stop the rook from getting this defensive role was key. Okay, still nice advantage for black though. After king f7. Rook e5. Check. f4. b5. I didn't want to go into this race though. This race against him. King b3. Rook d2. b6. And rook d6 I have. But like a4. e2. b6. f3. b7. I mean, my pawns are faster, but I didn't want to go into this race against him. So that's why I chose against this plan. I went f6 first. I also thought f6 was good because say he makes a move, I can take rook d5 and go e5, king b2, e5, king c3, take, king e6. I didn't want to go to this either, but it is completely winning. Let's see how the computer would win it. e4, g5. Let's say he gets his pawns as far as he can. f5, h5, take, king d6, h3, maybe b6, king e3, and king c5. And if f4, I have a g4. And if takes, it's completely winning. Just pick up the pawn and get a new queen. So I found that tough to see if it was just like completely winning or not, and also I think this was simpler. It says e5 right away. Okay, king f7, king b2, g5, expansion because I want to be faster with my pawns, and I could go rook here, but after rook d2 I can't infiltrate, and I might as well keep pressure on the pawn. And e5 is top move, missed, but I had my idea. He goes back, he should have gone king d2, so that his king can get a little bit more active, but after bishop c6 there's too many pawns hanging. And win another pawn. g4, h5 was best, actually, interesting. g3, take, and push. Okay, let's take a look at the other game. So 97 is quite a unique line that I'm not so familiar with. So I just castled c3 and h3 and d4. And my idea was that, okay, his bishop is hitting the pawn. If he goes b5, I should not go bishop c2. This is what I initially thought because he could take. Can't take with the knight because the queen's hanging. And if pawn takes, he can take on f3. And if I take back with the queen, the bishop is not hitting the f7 pawn, so black would win a pawn in the center of the board and be up a pawn in the opening. Which is actually surprisingly not that bad for white. I thought the engine would give white a much worse evaluation here. So that's why I went bishop b3, anticipating takes, and if takes, knight cannot take because of queen. Or bishop to f7. I thought queen f7, which is good enough. Bishop f7 even better. And check. King is on a journey. Okay, so he goes f6, but f6 creates some really bad concession on the light squares, and it's kind of difficult to see how he's going to finish his development. Best move is knight a5. Let's say bishop c2 and c5. g4, bishop g6, d5. I think I want to go knight c3 first. Let him take so my knight can use the d4 square. And h5. Kind of difficult to get his development with this knight on e7. Okay, after bishop to e3, queen d7. I thought he should go bishop f7 here. Even just trade off this strong bishop and d5. Queen d7, knight d2. And castle is super risky because after a4, his king is getting open. He goes knight a7. Yeah, maybe he can attack on this side of the board like f5. Knight take. But then his king again wide open. So not so clear how to defend against this. Engine likes knight to b4. And after I take, if queen takes, d5. Taking away this escape square for the knight. After f5, I don't think I'd see g4. Maybe like bishop a4. I don't know. Maybe knight c4, knight d4, hitting this queen. Makes sense. What about just queen c1? Queen c1 also good. Okay. So knight a7, d5, c6. I take, and then take with the rook. And queen a1, a little bit finer. And what exactly was the mate here? So let's say he makes like a move, like, I don't know, g5, just for example. Check, king c7, check, queen b7, and then rook here should, if mate, bishop e6 is mate too. Check here, and rook takes to you. And rook c1, king d7, win the queen, but not mate. So it's the bishop actually being needed to give the mate. Alright, and good game, Kevin. Let's take a look at any other game that's going on. So first game finished, and they are in the heat of the second match. This game is finished. Let's see if they are rematching here. 2 games played. That's done. And this game done as well. So we have only a few players remaining for today. Hope you're enjoying the round 1 live stream. And what went on in this game? So we have a Scotch. A3 is played. Maybe bishop g5. Better. Bishop b5 controlling e8. Interesting idea. Maybe rook e1. b2 pawn's a little bit weaker. Bishop d4. Bishop e5 hitting the knight. f4. Okay. Take. Keeping the tension. f5. Queen d3. And now he alleviates all the tension. The bishop pair is quite useful. You can go bishop f2. This bishop is a bit trapped. And what to do here? So he takes, which I don't think is a good decision here. Because the rook also gets it. If you're going to lose the bishop, maybe you don't have to lose the rook. Okay, he resigns. See you next week, everyone. Gonna sign off here, and see you